Hello everyone, and I'm going to do a drawing here with this Sharpie pen. And I thought about doing some live streaming, but for this video I'm just going to do some drawing and pick a random topic, talk about it. I might ramble on about completely random things, but yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and get started on the doodle. But the reason I don't mind live streaming, but for me personally, I'm not much of a social person. I prefer spending most of my time keeping to myself, learning about things, and if I do interact with somebody, I prefer it to be a one-on-one interaction rather than talking to a whole bunch of people. And I tried talking during some live streams, but it just wasn't for me, so I much prefer just drawing and maybe trying to talk about stuff, although the problem I do have is trying to multitask between talking and drawing, because generally what I've always done is that I will put on some music and then I will just draw, or I'll listen to a podcast while I'm drawing. But yeah, I was thinking about that today when it comes to socializing and being an artist. I mean, it's kind of a weird thing that you're doing something that can be expressing yourself, but at the same time you're supposed to just be yourself. But I don't really care too much for a lot of socializing. I mean, as I said, I like to learn things. I like to focus on getting better, and spending so much time talking to people, I just don't really get a whole lot done. I talked about in a video before about what it would be like if I lived in a bigger city where there's more things to do. But I mean, there'd be more things to do, but the downside is that there's just so many people. And it's not that I don't like socializing because I have any anxiety with it or anything. It's just that most of the things that I have to talk about, there's not really much of any people that I have to talk to about the subjects that I have interest in. Especially my town, my area. And so I'll prefer to just put on a podcast or watch a documentary about the subject that I'm wanting to think of or to learn about. And so I'll just go about doing it that way. And I've been asked whether or not that I don't like to socialize much because I'm depressed or something. And that's definitely not the reason. And I have noticed that a lot of times that when you tell someone you don't really want to talk, or that you're not a very social person, they automatically try to socialize with you, as if they're testing to see if you're a social person or not. And so then you tell them, no, not really, but they persist, and then they think there's something wrong with you. They tell you that maybe you're depressed or this or that. And I think a lot of times people like to assert that if someone else is different, that somehow because that person is different than them, that there's something wrong with them, or that if you're not like the majority of people, that you need to change, or that you're depressed, or that you've got something wrong with you. And I think that if I did try to force myself to socialize a lot, which I have done before, I noticed that the entire time I'm just thinking about all the things that I could be getting done, all the cleaning I could be doing, the drawing, the editing videos, places I could go by myself and enjoy the moments. And a lot of times moments can be ruined when other people kind of ruin the whole atmosphere and everything of what's going on. And yeah, like if you're out somewhere and you want some peace and quiet, and then the person you're with wants to be loud, or they want to make a scene, or they want to always be the center of attention. It's just, but I know it definitely depends on who the person is that you're talking to. But even then, it kind of depends. Like, I don't like being around people all the time, which is kind of a strange thing, being that most of the jobs I've done, or any jobs I've been able to get, I've always worked with the public. And yet I'm a very introverted person. I prefer to keep to myself. And I think because of that, it's allowed me to spend more time drawing, to focus on it and to work on it. I mean, or other people might get lonely, or they might want to go out. They want to go somewhere, to hang out with friends or people and all that. I'm just sitting in my house drawing still. Focus on trying to get my drawing skills better. But I don't think for me, it's not like I'm really sacrificing socializing to improve the drawing, because I don't really feel like I have a whole lot to gain from that. I like to learn about things, and for the most part, from my interactions, I've always encountered that oftentimes someone wants you to hang out with them, not because they're interested in getting to know you, but more so because they want you to know them, like in some kind of selfish way for some reason. And so it definitely depends on who it is that you're interacting with. And if you do notice that sometimes while I'm talking during these that I might repeat myself, that is because I don't tend to draw and talk at the same time. So, but anyways, so I was saying that when it comes to socializing a lot with people, I've just it wouldn't really be because of anything as bad that's happened to me, like because of lost friendships or anything. It's not because of any of that. I just prefer working on things and drawing. I see a lot of times where people that are very extroverted, they end up in a situation where, from peer pressure from other people to hang out or do something, they'll give up on their goals in life or something they want to do just because other people want to socialize so much. But we all have our own thing, I guess. I guess we all have something that we're interested in or have a hobby as. I don't know. I guess socializing could be a hobby, but I don't know. You tell me. But then again, I am just sitting here in my apartment. I'm practically talking to myself, I guess, because this isn't live streamed. This is pre-recorded. It would kind of feel weird. in a way, sitting here talking to myself out loud. Because it's like I'm talking out loud for my channel, as if I'm talking to someone, but I'm just talking to myself. That's kind of weird. Oh well. Anyways, I never really got lonely or nothing. I did have someone mention to me that they did feel lonely, but they didn't want to be around anybody. I think what that is if you feel lonely, but you don't want to be around anybody. It's just that the people that you have been around in your life might not have been the right people to socialize with, or maybe you needed a new group of friends. That could be one of the reasons. But yeah. And if you are someone that's not really that much of a socializing person, don't feel like you have to be like everybody else just because that's how they are. I mean, you can't really be missing out on something that you don't want. Like, for example, like this here looks like a block of cheese to me, kind of. And let's say it's cheddar cheese. And what if I don't like cheddar cheese and someone says to me, well, if you don't eat cheddar cheese, you're missing out. Well, if I don't like cheddar cheese, I don't see how I will be missing out on something I don't have interest in. If that makes any sense. Now I'm drawing a leaf. I think this is going to be, looks like a tribal design, kind of like one of my tattoos that I got. But yeah, I really have no idea where these ideas come from during my drawing. But anyways, yeah, I guess you can't really be missing out on something you don't have interest in. But I think at this point I'm just rambling. I think I've said the same thing 20 times maybe. But then again, I don't really know what else to say about that topic. I don't really think about it too much. As I said, I don't really think too much about something that I don't really have interest in or care about too much. Yeah. Right now I've got, I think, 3 candles lit that are helping my apartment smell good. I do have these essential oils. They're different scents. They're different kinds, and I was gonna put those in it, but instead I just picked them up and opened each of them and smelled all the essential oils one at a time. It was a really strange mixture, like between lemongrass, peppermint, grapefruit, rosemary, and some other ones. I think this looks like a giant block of cheese, and then a half of a planet, and then some tribal design. I think I'm gonna go with more of a swirly thing coming off of here. Like that. It's gonna come up and go that way. I'm trying to keep the drawing underneath the camera. It's kind of hard to do that when I'm multitasking between drawing and checking this. I do have 2 monitors for my computer for video editing, and I do have the one that I use for monitoring one of my my camera. Like, I have a capture card plugged into my camera, and the capture card, I can use it to capture the recording from my camcorder and I can use it to show the display on my screen. But if I move, like I have two monitors, but one of them is actually a drawing tablet. And that one I like to have right in front of me to where I can reach it and use the keyboard from my computer for when I'm using my drawing tablet. And the other monitor I use for editing as well. And I have it set up so that the one monitor I'm looking straight at and the other one I'm looking kind of downward at. And I have it that way so that my neck doesn't get to start hurting or anything from video editing and all that stuff. But so I used to have it at a different angle and my neck started hurting. I was like, I gotta fix this. Have you ever had anybody like you lived by and they'll like have really loud kids or a loud dog or a loud car, and say for example they drive up with a motorcycle, or they like keep their diesel truck on idle for some reason for like hours at a time, and then like if you happen to like be playing music at all, they're like, why are you being so loud? What's going on up there? I've had that happen before in a place I used to live, and my neighbors would argue all the time. Like practically every day argue, and their kids would be screaming and crying. And I was like, I never understood why it was that like I wasn't allowed to have a pet there where I lived at these other apartments. And they said it was because the pet would be too loud. And the cat I had, he was pretty much silent. The only time he would meow is like maybe 2 or 3 meows he would let out when I would go to feed him, and that's pretty much it. He was pretty much silent. He never made a sound. And yet, I wasn't allowed to have my cat there. Even though all the people that lived around me, they had a bunch of kids that would be really loud and cry for hours nonstop. All hours of the day. They would have their kids running around screaming through the apartments and the hallways, and nothing was done about it or said about that. And it doesn't really make any sense to me. But I'm glad I moved out of there. It's too noisy, too loud. And I always try to be courteous of anywhere I've ever lived. I've always avoided playing music late at night that's too loud. Heck, most of the time, anywhere I've lived, I've had a lot of times people didn't even know I lived there because I was so quiet. And one day they would see me walking down the hallway or something, like, you just moving in? I'm like, no, I've lived here for 2 years. They're like, what? Like, yep. Why? I'm like, oh, I've never seen you before. I was like, well, I've lived here for 2 years. But yeah, that never made any sense to me. Like, their kids would be loud and everything, and even if I would like tell the owner and everything about how the kids were loud, nothing was done about it. But yet I had a cat that was very quiet. He was an indoor cat. He was not an outside cat, and he wouldn't even try to get outside if I let him. He just wanted to stay inside. He would just sit there and look out the window, so he didn't have to worry about that. He did not have fleas or anything. I took very good care of him. He was pretty much spoiled. And they wouldn't. Like, you can't have a pet here. Like, okay. Why are people allowed to have like 8 kids running around screaming and yelling and being loud? And yet they talk about how there's quiet time. after a certain time at night, yet other kids would be screaming and crying and yelling throughout the entire night. And this was the time when I was working a lot of hours, and I could not get any sleep. It was frustrating because I would tell them and they're like, oh, we'll do something about it. And they would never do anything. I would tell the owner, and pretty much nothing happened. And it was that point I realized that there was no point in even trying to tell them, because they obviously weren't going to do anything about it. And the kids kept being loud and screaming and yelling and running through the hallways and fighting with each other and arguing, and couples were arguing with each other. And I had one time where they told me that I was playing music too loud. And I was like, what are you talking about? They're like, well, there's music too loud coming from your apartment. I was like, well, that's weird, because I'm not even home right now. I'm on break at work. And then I got home, and it wasn't even me. It was like 2 apartments away. It made no sense. And then I would get home, and everybody would be playing music loud all the time. And nothing was done about it, but I would always get like accused that I was playing music loud. I was like, that didn't make any sense. Like, most of these people didn't even know I lived here. And then everybody played music like super loud. So at one point I was like, all right, I guess we're supposed to have a quiet hour, but everybody's being loud. So I went to play some music, and it wasn't even loud. It was like barely enough to where you could hear it. Like, if you had lived right beside me through thin walls, you probably could barely hear it. And then I got a knock on my door, like, from the owner. I'm like, we're here for noise violation. I was like, I'm thinking to myself, what in the world? Because I opened my door and it was so loud out there. Like, the other people were playing music really loud, and there were kids running through the hallways screaming. And I told him, I was like, why don't you check the other apartments where they're actually being loud and there are kids running around all day, leaving stuff in the hallways that people could trip on, and being awake all night, and the parents aren't even being responsible and watching their kids. But yeah, that was not a very fun place to live. It was weird though, like how I just kept to myself, and yet the people would try to keep bothering me. I don't know, I think it was because I didn't socialize. They're like, oh, there's something wrong with him. How dare he not talk to all of us? I think sometimes when you're not a really social person and you don't socialize with people like that, sometimes they think that you don't like them or something, that you're mad at them. Or sometimes I have to tell people, I'm like, no, I'm not mad at you. I'm just in my own mind thinking about stuff that I want to draw, things I want to work on. And so many times someone will say, well, tell me what you're thinking about, what's in your mind. And I would try to talk with them about it, and they're just completely lost. They have no idea what I'm talking about. I'll start talking about science and philosophy and all that, and they're like, oh, I have no idea what you're talking about. Or they're telling me that I'm weird, and I'm like, well, you asked. If you don't want to know about me, then don't ask about me. That's another thing that I did find a bit strange, is when someone to ask about you, and then when you tell them about you, they're like, why are you telling me all this? Or they're like, I want to get to know you better on a personal level. And you're like, alright, okay. And so then you start telling them things, and then they're like, why are you telling me all this personal stuff? And I'm like, because you asked me? They're like, well, I don't want to know. And I'm just like, okay, that don't make any sense to me. somehow I guess people expect you to read their mind. I don't know how that's supposed to work. This looks like another piece of cheese to me. Hopefully this video isn't too dark. I set it to manual exposure for the brightness. But yeah, I guess we'll find out in the video editing. But anyways, yeah, that was really not a fun time living. And the apartment I lived in, it was a downstairs apartment. Like I was at floor level, but I was like 4 feet lower than like ground level. And where the sun was, like the windows in my apartment, there was bushes on that side. And the bushes were like, they had to been like 16 feet tall. They were like really tall. They're pretty much like small trees. And I got pretty much no sunlight. And I have noticed that if I get like no sunlight whatsoever, I start to feel kind of depressed. And this is gonna kind of go into another topic that's like completely off topic of what I'm talking about, because then I was gonna say stuff about like your rhythm when you're sleeping and how the whole light cycle, what's it called, the cardiac something, I forget the name of it. I can never remember an exact term of this stuff, but I know what I'm talking about. It has to do with like when you see daylight and it affects your eyes and it kind of like wakes you up more. Like with melatonin. I have to check something here. I think my camera wasn't quite in focus, but I fixed it. Anyways, it affects the melatonin in your body and helps you control your sleep pattern and cycle and everything. But if you get no sunlight, then it just like ruins that, and then you have trouble sleeping, and then you don't sleep well. But I'd have my windows open. It was like pretty much like living in a cave. And I remember this is before I started YouTube and before I started recording my drawings and all that. But I had a couple of times where I tried to record some of my drawings, but I had this tiny little lamp and I just did not get enough light in there. And this is before I knew much of anything about recording drawings, and so I had this cheap lamp, and the light on it was like I think like a standard, or just a house light bulb. It wasn't like those bright white ones or anything. It was just a 2500K Kelvin light bulb. So it wasn't like the light bulb I have here in this recording, to where it gives you the full spectrum of the light, to where it accurately reproduces colors. It was like a cheap 2500K, like a yellow bulb. And so when I record some of my drawings, because I did this one color pencil drawing, and it was everything was yellow. Like the reds were yellow, the blues were yellow, and the greens were yellow. All the colors were all messed up. And so that didn't work out very well. But I did do a recording of a drawing of some abstract horse. And anyways, I was wanting to use the light from the sun as extra light, but I was never able to do that because of it. I mean, the apartment I live at now, my living room has 3 windows, and I get plenty of light. Keeps me from being all tired all the time. I've had days where I forget to open my blinds and let some light in, and I don't feel that great then. You know, another thing I will say too is that when it comes to socializing, and I've had people mention this to me before, is how they say you talk about strange things, or like, what are you talking about? Or like, I don't think of these things. And I think of a lot of this stuff because I spend a lot of time by myself, drawing, working on things, learning stuff. I do more than just going and hanging out with people, or feeling that I absolutely have to just because everybody says you've got to. I just like to be myself. That doesn't mean that I don't like to talk to people whatsoever, although I do have times where I kind of feel that way, depending on my mood or what I'm doing, or if I'm working on a lot of art, that I might not have too much interest in talking to a whole bunch of people. But it's always kind of weird that I'm talking on this, because it's like I'm talking to myself for a video for other people to listen to, but they can't really, like, they can interact, but they're not like interacting in real time, which I kind of prefer. I think that's the problem I had with doing the real-time drawings. After a while, I just started putting music over it, and that was working, and then I was like, taking a break, because I did maybe a month or two of just live streams every day, over and over, but then I just felt like I was losing my creativity, because I just wasn't having as much fun with video editing. Sometimes it can be monotonous and a lot of work, but I'd say sometimes I do like editing video. Gives me more ideas for creating stuff, because I know a lot of people that watch my work and my drawings, they don't really have time to sit through an hour or two of live stream, because they want to see the drawing as it's progressing, and I can understand that. I'm thinking about using a Sharpie on this, maybe, to fill in like these areas. I think that's what I'm going to do. I'll be right back in a second. Let me get a Sharpie. It's going to add some more contrast. Let's see here. I'm going to fill in these areas. Sometimes it's just satisfying for some reason to fill in large areas with a Sharpie. And then I think to myself, am I wasting this? Could I use this to like draw lines rather than just fill in an area? But, oh well. I think it's the sound of the Sharpie too. I don't think it's not going to the next page. Just making sure, because this is a different sketchbook that I'm using. This isn't the name brand, this is a cheaper sketchbook. But I think a lot of times, I will say, I notice people get too caught up in the name brand of stuff, rather than the actual paper itself. You gotta look at the paper weight, you gotta look at the GSM, the thickness of the paper, the smoothness and all that. Because you can have something that's name brand, but not actually work as well as something else, because something else might have a better paper. That's another weird thing too, is like people that they get obsessed with a brand of something and they'll only buy that brand. You know, like a brand of pen or something like that, or a sketchbook. I mean, you might as well try the cheaper one, because what if you end up liking the cheaper one better than the name brand? Not only that, but it's cheaper. So let's say you don't like it, it's not like you're really wasting your money. I mean, you're testing it. You're testing to see if this is what you like. And I was gonna say, back to my story about when I moved and when I was living there. Yeah. So then I did get a call one time that said I was being too loud. Well, okay, so I'll back up on that. What happened was I had gotten a voice message, and it was from the owner, and they said that I was playing music too loud, or that I was making too much noise. And it was a voicemail, and I called back. I was like, "Hello," like, "Yeah, you can turn the music down." I was like, "How?" And they're like, they thought I was being sarcastic, but I was like, "No, really, how?" Because I'm not even home. I'm on vacation. Maybe it was a ghost. Not a ghost. Maybe it was Santa Claus. Maybe it was the Easter Bunny. I'm gonna fill the area. There we go. I really hope it's not going. Nope. We're good. It's not going to the next page. But yeah, it was really weird. Speaking of strange, there was I think I might have talked about it in a video, but I went to take out my trash one day. This was about a month ago, and I got to go back into my apartment, and there was a cat at my steps. It was a huge cat. And it was like, I don't know, the cat looked wild though, and I couldn't get to my door, and it wouldn't move, so I picked it up, and it started biting me. But luckily I got a pretty good pain tolerance, and just like, yeah, whatever, and then just picked the cat up, moved it, and then it ran away. And that was that. The end. Probably thought that was going to be some long story, but nope. That was it. I don't even know why I brought that up. I guess this is what's going on in my mind while I'm drawing. Well, not really. I have other things that go through my mind while I'm drawing. Things to think about. I think I like that with the Sharpie. You know, I bought water today at the store, and I left it at the store. But I can just go back and get it again. It's only 89 cents. I drink the filtered water because my city water tastes weird. It tastes like, I don't know, it just doesn't taste right. I guess maybe if I go to the side of the Sharpie, maybe I can get wider lines. Fill the area in faster. Doodly doodle. I'm talking to myself at like 10 o'clock at night. Can you hear that? The Sharpie? And then there's one place that I did live at that was above a bar. I don't know what I can do about that. I choose to move it. I made that choice to move in. But they played music really loud, like pretty much every night. They'd have bands that go play there, and I had to move there. It was the only place I had that I could afford. Everywhere else was at least $150 more. Yeah, about $150 to $200 more per month. And so I move it into there because it's all I could afford. And then I lived there for about, let's see, from 2000. I gotta think on this one. I think it was 2010, maybe. I think it was 2010 to 2012. I think that might have been. Yeah. I lived there for about 2 years. I think after a while I was just like, yeah. I mean, like, the good thing was that I could play music loud if I wanted to, because, like, even with my speakers on full blast from my computer, as loud as they could possibly get, they wouldn't even hear it. Like, there was that much of a difference in the loudness of it. But, yeah. I feel like this drawing's done just about. Like, I don't really feel like I need to add much of anything else to it. I mean, let's see here. Maybe, I did a little bit of stippling. Maybe, I think right here. And I think that'll be it. Like this area. I've been doing a lot of zentangle like type of stuff recently. I got tired of doing so much stippling because it's so time consuming, and I just want to get the drawings done because I have more ideas of things I want to work on. Like, I feel like maybe if I'm drawing for too long, a drawing that is mostly done, and then I gotta add a bunch of stippling, I just feel kind of like an anxiety or something. It's like, it feels like restless leg syndrome in my whole body. I just want to get the drawing done. Like, I'm kind of starting to feel that way here, almost with this. Oh, I'm kind of hungry though, but I don't know what I'm going to eat. I already had oatmeal, and I do have to go to the store tomorrow because all I've got in my fridge is celery. Wait, I do have some potatoes. I can microwave a couple of potatoes. Add some butter to them. A very, very tiny bit of salt. And then add some seasonings. Some vegetable seasonings. And then all will be good. I'm going to zoom out here and show you my finished doodle. There we go. And so yeah, that's my doodle. I don't know how long did that take me? I'm gonna guess it was like 40 minutes, maybe 45, I don't know. But anyways, that's my doodle. I'm going to go make myself some potatoes, microwave them up and eat them. And then I'll be back to do some more drawings. Maybe I'll talk some more in a video. But I definitely prefer doing this over live stream and talking. Because I do very good focusing on one thing. I do really good at it. But trying to add in a bunch of socializing into the drawing, it just doesn't work too much for me. But anyways, I'm going to go eat. And let me know what you think of the doodle. And I'll see you in the next video. You have a good night and a good day. See you later.